Wake up, listen in. High ticket sales isn't easy. I want you to understand that. I'm not saying that to scare you. I'm not saying that to turn you away from getting into high ticket closing, getting into high ticket sales, but I do want you to understand that it isn't easy. The reason it isn't easy is because it's absolutely a skill game. Your ability to get good at the skill is going to determine the success you have. You see online people talking about making 10K, 20K, $30,000 a month with sales. That is definitely possible, but it isn't easy to get there because, like any skill in life, whether that's playing a sport or whether that's learning combat or whether that's learning how to make money, it's a skill that you have to practice and you have to get good at. And until you are good, you're going to struggle. And then once you get good, you still might struggle, but you just get better and better and better until it actually becomes easy because you've mastered the skill. Now, I've identified 3 skills that are the most important skills for any person in high ticket sales to have. And if you are able to get good at these 3 skills, you're going to make money, because these 3 skills are the foundation and the bedrock of what makes someone good at high ticket sales. I've gone through this journey myself, from not being good to being okay to being really good to then getting this to a mastery level. And I'm going to share with you how you can get good at these 3 skills. And if you're able to get good at these skills, they're going to separate you from the pack and they're going to get you to the next level of success, where you're able to make a bunch of money, where you're able to work off your laptop, living anywhere, doing anything you want, because you've put in the work to get good at these skills and become a closer who makes really good cash and makes an impact on the world and creates the life that he wants. Let's go ahead and dive into it. The first skill you have to learn is active listening, and I'm going to define active listening for you here. The practice of preparing to listen, observing what verbal and non-verbal messages are being sent, and then providing appropriate feedback for the sake of showing attentiveness to the message being presented. That is active listening. There's a difference between hearing what someone says, listening to what someone says, and then actively listening to what they say. And this is important in sales. You can't sell someone something that they don't believe that they need. This is where the sales going to come from. This is what people buy. When they get to a point on the call with you where they feel like at the end of the call, it's a worse decision if they don't move forward with the solution that you or your company provides, versus if they did move forward and lost the money or invested the money required for them to get that result. That's the point you want to get to. But for you to get to that point in sales, people have to feel and they have to understand that what you provide and the thing that you are selling them, the thing that you are offering them, the service, the package, whatever it is, they have to feel like that has enough value based on their current needs and current problems and their desired outcome for them to make a decision to move forward. And what a lot of people who get into high ticket sales, a lot of guys who get into sales don't realize and don't understand is that they're not creating that gap between where the person is now versus where they want to be in the future. And the way that happens, how do you do that? Where do you create that from? It's by actively listening. The key to actively listening is finding out where the need lies and then speaking to that pain point. You have to understand exactly why someone needs something. Let's say that you work on an offer helping people build e-commerce stores that are profitable and make $15,000 a month. Let's say that's what you do. The reason why a 45-year-old dad who's got 2 kids, let's say he's a single dad, he's got 2 kids, the reason why he invests in that offer is not going to be the same reason or the same pain as why the 25-year-old guy who just got out of college and is working as a, let's say, car mechanic and wants to and hasn't found his career yet, the reason why he's going to make a decision to say yes and invest in that program isn't the same reason why the dad is. Ultimately, the goal is the same, make money, but the motivations and the needs in terms of where that drive to make money is coming from are different places. And the way that you find that out is through active listening. So the first skill that you need to have if you're going to be good at high ticket sales is active listening. One of the ways I think you can practice this that I've seen really works for me, and that's worked for guys that I've helped and a lot of the guys I know who've gotten good at sales, one of the ways you can practice being good at active listening is by taking time in your day-to-day life to listen to what people are saying to you and slow down. So when you have conversations with people, instead of making the conversations just about yourself and just making it all about you and your perspective and your worldview. Actually listen and ask questions about the other person's perspective, about their viewpoint in life, and take a second to care about somebody else instead of just what's going on with you. And I'm not saying you don't care ever, but a lot of times you'll find that if you really pay attention to it and get conscious and get aware, you'll find that you wrap yourself up in your own bubble. And when you have conversations with people, you're not really invested in their experience or their worldview. But when I talk to people around me, I'm always trying to ask them what their angle is, what their perspective is, what their pain is, what's the reason why they want to get good. And actually, I learned this when I was teaching dating, and I learned this by getting really good at dating women. But what happened is, in order for me to get better with women, I had to understand women better. And the way I understood women better was by having deep, meaningful conversations with lots of women, whether I was dating those girls or I was not dating them. But I had lots of conversations with them, and because I had these conversations with women, and I was able to find out their perspective, and I was able to find out where they were coming from, it taught me a very important skill that listening, actively listening, is a very valuable tool to have, because once you understand where someone's coming from and their perspective, you can relay the right kinds of information back to them to get what you want. Actually, if what you want is positive, that's even better. You shouldn't be wanting things that are going to hurt people, but you can find out what that person wants, and you can get to a certain place in the conversation or in the dialogue because you know where they're coming from and who they are. So active listening is massively important. The second skill that you need to learn and you need to master is high-level communication. In high-ticket sales, there's a couple of ideas that need to be shared with the prospect. These are ideas that are important for them to understand if they're going to buy and if they're going to make a decision on the call to back themselves and get a result and move forward and make a change in their lives. And some of those ideas, as an example, are urgency, right? You need to do this now instead of waiting until later. You don't need to do anything, but do you want to do this now, right? Another one is cost of inaction. What happens if you don't do this now? What do the next couple of months look like for you? If you don't actually take steps to correct where you're at today and make a change, what happens next? Future pacing. What does the future look like if you do get this correct? What does that vision look like in the future for you to connect with people, for you to have the money you want, whatever the offer is, for you to have the body, to have the physique that you want? What does that future look like if you get this correct, and can you feel what that feels like? These ideas are really important, and they have to be communicated thoroughly and clearly so that getting to a yes, getting a prospect on a call from being on the fence and being unsure to eventually saying yes becomes an efficient process. Most people, here's the thing, most people rush through their words and their communication, which is why stuff gets difficult. This is why it gets difficult for you if you started closing, or if you want to close and get better at sales. It's going to be really difficult for you if you rush through your words and communication. I used to do this all the time when I would sell and when I would just talk to people in general. You can even tell probably by how I talk on YouTube and how I speak here in the videos, my temperament and my cadence is to talk quickly and to express things in a fast way. But what happens is when I change this and I started taking more time and sitting in my words, I began to have better impact on people, have a higher impact on people, and the person I was talking to began to understand what was going on more. So the words had more weight. So let's say I asked someone a question like, what happens if you don't actually make a change? I could ask the question like this: what happens if you don't make a change? I'm just curious. That's one way. Or I could say, what happens if you don't make a change? You hear the difference. I added more weight, more impact behind my words because I took time. That's an example of high-level communication. And there's a lot of different modalities and modes and nuances of communication that go into selling. All of them are not important for you to master. A lot of it comes with practice, to be honest, but the overall idea of high-level communication is important. And if you want to make money in high-ticket sales, you have to be a high-level communicator and be able to communicate ideas that have a lot of nuance and a lot of weight, communicate those ideas at a high level. The third principle, and this is by far one of the most important parts of high-ticket sales. All of this is important, but the third principle is super important, and this is objection handling. And credit to Bill Walsh, the man himself, for helping me realize how important this was in my life. It was only until I actually invested in working with him in his program that I really understood how important objection handling was to how I'd make money overall and all my businesses and as a high ticket closer. And once I understood objection handling, my income skyrocketed, started making way more money. I didn't realize how important it was actually until I started doing way more calls as a closer. If you've seen my videos, you know that I ran my own business, got that to 6 figures consistently. And then I started doing high ticket closing after building my own coaching company. I started doing closing on the side, and then I replaced my income with closing. And what's interesting is objections are such an important part of the sales process. They're not important because we love objections, but they're important because they're going to come up and you're going to have to handle them. That's just the truth. So an objection is essentially the prospect, the person you're on the call with, creating a reason for why they can't make an investment that will give them the results that they want. Okay, that's an objection. Now, some objections are going to happen because you're not good at sales. And if you get better at sales, the objections that you get become different. When you're not good at sales and someone says, I'm just not interested, that's not an objection. They're like, I'm not interested for whatever reason. That's them not being interested. But an objection, a pure objection, is when the person is interested, but for whatever reason, whatever limiting belief or unconscious reason, which we'll have to discover in this process of handling objections, they decide or they feel they're hesitant to make a decision in the moment and invest right now, and they want to put that off till later, or even potentially not do it at all. But normally, if you're good at sales and if the offer itself is good, if what you're selling is good, most people are going to want to do it. There's just going to be a bunch of reasons they create for why they can't do it right now. And it's your job in sales as a high ticket salesperson to understand how to overcome those objections, how to actually overcome the person's own fears themselves and get them out of their way. Because usually what objections are is it's just them creating a gap between where they are now and the result that they want to get to, and they're creating a gap, and in the middle of that gap is going to be fear. Sometimes it's something else, sometimes it's logistics, honestly, sometimes it's the time they're in life, and then you have to overcome that, right? Sometimes it's something about money where the money's actually really tough and they can't spend $10,000 or even $5,000 on themselves. Whatever it is, you have to figure out what that objection is, because learning how to handle objections is what's going to have you make more money. As a closer, someone in high ticket sales, I started making way more money for myself as a closer and for my businesses once I started figuring out how to handle objections and how to not have someone say, I'm just going to think about it and get back to you, but have them actually make a decision on the call and help them make that decision. That's really what the key is. So in summary, if you want to master high ticket closing and you really want to make good money and you really want to make high ticket closing your future, and it really can be, and it can lead you into other businesses, it can lead you into having a network bigger than you ever thought you'd have, you have to realize that it is a skill and you must build the skill. That is the key. And when you understand that it's a skill, then you can hone in on the 3 most important parts of high ticket closing and of high ticket sales, because that's what's going to get you good. And those 3 parts are active listening, number 1, understanding what the prospect is giving you and the place it's coming from, and being able to respond accordingly because you hear the nuances, you read the body language, you hear the vocal tonality, you understand how they're communicating. Number 2 is high-level communication. So being able to deliver ideas efficiently and in a way where they have high impact, where the prospect really feels what you're trying to share with them and what place you're trying to help them get to. That's high level communication. Then we have objection handling. Objection handling is helping the prospect get out of their own way and helping them overcome themselves and their own fears and their own limiting beliefs. That's objection handling. This is how you're going to get to the next level. This is how you're going to go from where you are now to being legendary in sales, where you're making really good money. You're at 10K, 15K, 30K a month consistently. That's really the goal. That's really the secret. It's not even a secret. It's something you can predictably do. Okay, I'm rooting for you. I want you to win. Continue practicing self-mastery, because this is how you're going to get to the next level in life, in sales, in business, in relationships, everything. I'm rooting for you, and I will see you on the next training.